as we enter into a new era of leadership, empowerment, and influence. In this season 2 of Transcend with M, we want to highlight the power that lies underneath us, underneath you. On this new season, we will showcase true stories about women who, one way or another, are exercising influence by tapping on their strength and their own story. I hope, just like me, that you let all these women and their stories empower you today and shape your tomorrow, just like they have helped me. So welcome to Season 2 of Transcend with M. Know her story. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Transcend with M on this season of Know Her Story. And today I am very grateful to have with me Corrie Sommers. Corrie is not just a realtor, she's also my friend, and she is licensed in California and Massachusetts. Corrie is one of the top 1% nationally recognized realtors and is fiercely committed to and protective all of her clients. Her past and current clientele includes anything from celebrities in TV, film, radio, professional athletes, CEOs from Fortune 500 companies, attorneys, production of producers from TV, films, entrepreneurs, music executives, you name it. She's in LA. What can you expect, right? So Corrie specializes in luxury homes, new constructions, first-time home buyers, and mid-century modern. Something really good to know about Corrie is that she has a very big passion for mid-century modern architecture, and she got accepted into MIT School of Architecture, which is tremendously impressive. She actually passed up her FIDMS interior design program, and later she ended up going to CSUN studying marketing and finance. So Corrie has definitely a history working on finance, real estate, the mortgage industry, investing. And all we know and all clients actually refer to Corrie as Corrie Cares. So it for her is not just about only selling real estate, but also, to be able to help all her clients and everyone around her with, financial transactions, education. She wants to make sure that her relationships are long lasting, and her highly sensitivity to the fact that 3 out of 4 baby boomers actually are retiring in poverty has given Corrie a little bit of a responsibility and sense of commitment to continue to build a stable financial future for those around her and those that she helped to, and she helps them making sound real estate investments. So committed to helping her clients, be armed, not information, but about living an amazing life. She is local right now to Los Angeles, but she was in Massachusetts prior to that. So I have to say it because that's how we met. And, she's an entrepreneur by heart. She has a YouTube channel dedicated to empowering, her current and future clients. And I can say she's a great resource for anyone moving into Los Angeles. So welcome, Corrie. I hope I did a good intro there.
You did amazing.
So welcome. I am so excited to have you here. I am excited to have this conversation with you. I know we catch up for a little prior getting this started, but I am so excited to share your story with everyone out there, just because it's an impressive one. So let's dig in. Let's get started. Who's Corrie? Tell everyone, who are you?
I feel like you just did a little bit of an intro there. I guess, the biggest thing that I would say, it's funny because when I first got my real estate license, it was back in 2004, and I only got it because I was working in the mortgage industry. I never wanted to sell homes. I was strictly about, I want to flip homes. I want to take old properties, make them beautiful, make them pretty, like bless the next homeowner with something that's they can be proud of and enjoy and is solid, right? But life just has a way of not going in the direction you expect, and the recession hit, and so I was highly invested in property at that point. I owned 6 properties. I had to let 5 go. I kept my condo, and I literally, right when that recession hit, was about to flip my first property that I owned, because my strategy was buy it, hold it for 2 years, fix it, and sell it, so that I wouldn't get all the tax, the capital gains. I honestly wasn't planning to sell real estate, but when I spent 4 years in Massachusetts getting my mom ready for retirement. And initially I was working in finance, and I was about to get my Series 7 license, and my mom just kept bugging me. She's like, Corrie, you have your real estate license in California. You should really get your real estate license in Massachusetts. You'd be really good at selling. I just know you would. You really should do this. And I was like, and I'm like, well, you are right. I already have the license in California. I wouldn't have to take another test. Like, okay, let me look into this. So I got that license and started selling while I was working in finance, because I was only working that job part-time, because until I got my Series 7 license, I initially started off as the assistant to the owner of the company, who all his clients had at least $1 million of money invested in their retirement. And so I was doing his annual summary reports, like analyzing where their investment was, their projections, and preparing all of that for all of his clients. And it was an all-year job, because people came on at different parts of the year, but that's what I was doing. But the plan with me and them was that I was going to get my Series 7 license. They promoted me into a marketing position as I was starting to study it, but real estate was starting to take off for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like literally working 5 to 7 days a week, because some days I would have showings in the evenings after the finance jobs. And so when the promotion came, I had to make that decision. Which is it? And, it was kind of a hard one, because I wanted to be there. They wanted me to be there. And we just kind of mutually agreed that, what, it's time for me to kind of move on. And so I did. Started selling full time. And it's really interesting, because I do specialize in luxury, but there in Massachusetts, luxury is anything over $500,000, right? I sold the highest priced home ever in my particular office's history. It was $2.4 million. Nobody ever sold it that high before or since, because we were in an area where your average home price was $250 to $350, right? But I, having lived in Los Angeles most of my life, was used to driving an hour to go somewhere. So that was nothing to me. So I find it like closer to Boston, and that was that market. But I've also really had clients that weren't in that arena. Like the same time I had a $2.4 million client, I had a client buying a condo for $80,000 in a very impoverished area. And I always looked at it like, yes, I want to only sell luxury because, like, they get it, their relationship to money is different, but I would never not help somebody. And I always think about my mom, who's older and who's not in that tax bracket or income. And I would want someone to treat her with that same consideration and level of care and all of that. And even just being there and looking at her retirement, I don't want to talk her business, but she got started late, and if she stays living the way she's living, she's going to run out of money.
Yeah,
it's just a fact. And that kind of led me on this whole thing, between going to school for finance and learning certain things about finance, because I was really big on compounding interest and had certain investments, again, everything before the market blew up. And then when the market blew up, everything blew up, right? But I realized that high school doesn't give us the basics.
No,
college doesn't give you the basics. Even if you are taking finance, it doesn't give you the practical reality. And most people come out of college with all this debt and get a corporate job. And then the corporate job says, okay, here's a 401k, you should really do this, and this is the smart way to do this, and we'll match your investment up to 10%, and it makes sense, right? And then they'll give you a life insurance policy. But life insurance policy is just a death payout. right? You sign who your beneficiary is, but it really is only enough to cover maybe your funeral, which is important because you don't want to burden your family,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit of money, but it's not the scope of products. So it wasn't until I worked for the finance company that I really started to understand there's more to this. Like we all think, and when I say we all, I say this in general because my mom did like the right thing. She got like a financial planner, a company,
Yeah.
Edward Jones, and they're managing her 401k and all this stuff, but they only deal with certain products. So they only deal with products, much like the finance company I was with, that are invested in the stock market, because that's what that license is for, Series 7. But there's so many other parts to that. There's the insurance license, because there's insured financial products. And the biggest way to say the difference is the stock market goes up and down, right? So you get high gains, lows, and you just hope when it ends, you're on the up, right? That over time, your money's on the up. And that's, it can be considered volatile. I mean, there's certainly people that were into retirement when the market crashed and they lost all their money, and that's why, because of that volatility. With insured financial products, they don't go up and down, they go like this. So when there's a high, like let's say the market's up here, they're only going to come up to here. But when the market drops to here, they're only coming down to here. So over time, they have more growth.
Yeah.
And you make more money with it. I had no idea. I had no idea. It wasn't until I was here selling, and I'm all about networking and meeting people and how can we help each other, like, what do you do? Can I help your clients? Can I send my clients to you? And I met with someone that had an insurance license, and we sat down and they were like, well, how's your retirement? I'm like, oh, I'm rebooting because the recession wiped me out. I'm just rebooting. I'm sad. Like nothing. I was at like $500,000 before. I'm only at like 15,000. Like this is just pathetic. It's embarrassing. But in sitting down, it opened my mind to that was something I can add to my business, to be able to take my clients and say, hey, let me set you up with a free consultation and kind of explain what I just explained just now. That yes, you might have a job at Bank of America. You might have a job at UCLA as a nurse. You might have a job working for Warner Brothers, but they're only offering you this. You're missing something. The piece that you're missing, in addition to buying a home and owning property, is that other piece that's going to secure your financial future. You can't miss this. Just free consultation, no obligation, but just let me, instead of you paying to sit down with a financial advisor, $150 to look at everything, let me just complement this. Because I have that license, they'll do it for me. And, just like anything else, if there's some business sold, yes, I'll get a piece as a referral, but that's not why I'm doing it. I just want to see people prepared properly.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard and sad to see that your own parent is going to run out of money and be absolutely broke.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So will you say that having to go through all that experience with your mom and whatnot has shaped you to be the woman you are today and have shaped your business to the way it is today?
I would say it certainly altered the trajectory a bit. Yeah, for sure. Because, like I was, again, it was for me, real estate was like, I just want to invest and own a bunch of property, which is still a goal. Don't get me wrong. That's still a goal. But I also realized in selling that this is a business that I can grow. It's something that I can nurture other agents, grow a team, kind of step back and do and focus on the things I want, like the flipping, but help other people be successful, but also really find a way to help people understand, 90% of all millionaires is created from real estate, but it's not necessarily about being a millionaire. It's how do you want to live in your retirement? We see so many people that live subpar, right? Medical insurance is 60% of what their income is, and they're stuck living in some crappy little rundown little something, or they go on state supported programs, which again are crappy little rundown things. Or if they had the money and they're in like a retirement home, you're talking $5,000 or $6,000 a month. I don't know who can afford that, right?
Yeah.
If you can't afford $5,000 or $6,000 a month on your bills because you're making $60,000 a year, how are you supposed to afford that in retirement if you haven't set things up, right? So I just feel like there's this huge gap across America, across all income levels. And I think that there are things that can be done to at least set everybody up to maintain your standard of living into retirement. Not everyone's going to become a multimillionaire, but you can have that, because when you really look at it, how long does $2 million last?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If your living expenses are $100,000 a year, 2 million lasts you 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you retire at 65 and live till 90, $2 million isn't going to last until you die.
Right.
But it's going to last a lot longer than $100,000 and $1,500 from Social Security, which by the time our generation gets there, we might not get that at all,
Exactly.
or a fraction of what we should get. So we can't rely on that. And so that's yes, it has shaped a little bit the trajectory for me, the things that I'm passionate about and want to help others with. Absolutely.
Yeah. So will you say that through real estate, you have been able to find a passion or a vessel to actually, portray that passion into, something more, into something that really matters to you?
I hope that's what I'm doing. I mean, like I have that like servant heart to help people, right? Which, so it's important, like when I'm helping a seller, or helping a buyer to achieve their goals, right? For the most part, people's goals are to get the roof over their head, or to get the type of home they want, or in the area they want, or it's the school system, or making a wise investment. A lot of people are very afraid of losing money because of what happened with the market and the bubble 10 years ago. I mean, and I hear that all the time right now. And it's like, it's a totally different situation, but there's still a certain amount of fear. And all I can do is give you all the facts and information that I know and the experience that I have, and help you to make the best decision for you. Right. And then hopefully share enough to guide you to that next step. Because really you should own a home, look at investing in some type of income property. Like for example, with the property that you bought, at some point you might want to buy a home. And we're going to have that discussion of, can you hold on to this one and rent it out? Will you have a monthly income enough to cover and put additional in your pocket? What does that look like? Can we put that into an insurance for you, some kind of program for you, or should you be paying it down so that you will cash flow 100%? Or like there's things that people just don't realize and stop and think, because we get so caught up in the daily stress and the need to pay our bills and the lifestyle that we live. And I mean, look at right now, we're in COVID and there's so many people that don't have enough money to live. Right? Businesses are failing, they're struggling, they're not paying their rent, they're not paying their mortgage, they can't always, they're not just, there's not enough coming. And it's that thing that I call the X factor. You never know what's going to be that thing that affects us on such a deep level until it hits. The last time was that big collapse of the market. This time it's COVID. Who knew that some virus was going to like lock down the world? Yeah, and affect so much the economy as it has during the past, I don't know how many. I can't believe we're almost going into a year with this. We're only 2 months away from being on a whole year of this. So it is really interesting. And honestly, like, I wish myself I had the education earlier in my days, but where I come from, my culture and everything, this is not something that you learn. This is not something that anyone talks about. My parents have always been able to, stay afloat and everything, but I never heard them talking about retirement or investments or anything like that. And I think we all can do a much better job about teaching our children, how to better, set up themselves for success in the future. So with that, what empowers you from everything you do? Like, what brings you empowerment day after day, hour after hour? I think for me, I'm always like a big goal person. Like they say, if your goals aren't big enough to scare, if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough, right? I always set these goals that are probably unrealistic. And then I never feel like I've gotten there, which is okay, because it keeps me trying to get there, right? Like for me, with what we're talking about, I'm creating a course with someone, and I would love to, again, have my real estate business set up with a team that is kind of self-sufficient and doing what it's doing, and spend at least half the month traveling and speaking and teaching people about these tools and about the things that they can do to set themselves up appropriately. Because like I said, it's not about what income you're at. Whether you're making $30,000 a year, 60, 70, 150, 300,000, there are things that you can do to set yourself up so that when you retire, you're maintaining your lifestyle. And I think that's the biggest thing and the biggest message for each person. It's about maintaining your lifestyle. Yes, there's some people, like my nephew used to say this all the time when he was in high school, I want to be rich. I want to be a millionaire. I'm like, okay. And I'm so incredibly proud of him. At 21, he's bought his first place.
Yeah.
And I bought him the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm like, look, I know this was always your goal. And he's in the military. He's in the Navy. I'm like, if you will just listen to me and let me guide you, I can get you there. In 20 years, I will make you a millionaire. If you just listen. If you learn from my mistakes and just do what I guide you on, you will be there. And I hope he will do it. But he's, he's a guy, and men are stubborn. And they think they know everything. But he's made some really wise choices, and I couldn't be more proud. Couldn't be more proud.
So between all of this, what brings you the most happiness?
That's a great question. What brings you the most happiness? I don't know. I think you have to find joy in every day, honestly. And I think the thing that's important to find joy in every day is being grateful. If you're not grateful for the little things, how can you have pleasure or joy in the big things? So I think for me, like in general, most people would say I'm pretty much a happy, person. Of course, we all have like our different emotions and times that things bother us or hurt us and maybe we're down. But I think in general, I'm more happy than I'm not. So I guess, does that really answer the question? It's kind of a hard one for me.
I know, no, it's, well, I guess I'm just trying to get out of you, like, are you satisfied with how you have, been able to be where you're at and to do what you do for people?
I would say I'm not satisfied yet. I haven't helped enough people. So no, I'm not satisfied. I think there's work to be done. There's personal goals for me to accomplish. There's people for me to help. There's people I want to see thrive and be successful. And there's a lot of people out there to help. And I haven't been able to touch them all yet. I'm not there.
Okay.
On the path.
So your becoming story, where you are today, as a woman, how difficult it's been to get there, and what has helped you get where you are today?
Okay. So I do think that as a woman, we have challenges that men don't have. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Okay. My first team that I was with in real estate, I'll never forget this. Like my first couple months, it was the winter time. And so we would do open houses, right? And here I am in Massachusetts with my California BMW that has no real rear wheel drive. Yeah. Right? And no snow tires, mind you. We have a snowstorm. I'm supposed to do an open house. The owner of the team, who was a 6'3" tall, burly guy who's in his 50s, was out of town to call his wife. And I was just like, look, I'm barely getting out of my road and I'm slipping and sliding. I can't do this. She's like, oh no, go home. Like, great. He gets back in town on Tuesday, calls me. He's like, why didn't you do your open house? I'm like, because it was snowing. He's like, so John went and John shoveled and John did this. And I'm like, okay, John is also 6'2" and has a truck with all-wheel drive. Like, are you serious right now? And I find that there's just certain things that men will pass off to men before they will think of a woman. Mm-hmm. And I'm not the sort of person that sits there and like beats on my chest and brags. I'm like very low key. I'm very, I don't want to say regular because that's not an appropriate term, but like I'm cool. Like I'm a team player. I won't be like, oh, I'm amazing. I'm amazing. Like I said, I mean, I shared with you, like I had the highest sales, but I didn't walk around the office going, I'm so great. It wasn't like that. Right.
Yeah.
Those are bragging points you talk about in something like this, but that's not even on my resume or my bio. Right.
Right.
Maybe it should be, but it's not, because it's like, it is what it is. Right. It's about helping someone and those sorts of things. But I find that when men have those accomplishments, that's the first thing out their mouth, how great they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that everyone around them is like, oh, you're so wonderful. But as a woman, that's not what I project out. It's more like, I want to help, and I can help, and I care, and I work really hard, and all those things. So sometimes I think we get passed up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there would be times like we would get calls on some of the listings that would be new construction for like $500,000, $600,000 or $700,000. It would go to somebody else who was in the owner of the team's ear all the time, and like constantly like, oh, I'm so great. Look what I just did. Ugh. Meanwhile, I'm over here hustling and working hard and like showing 6 people homes every week. And I'm like making it happen and doing all this business. And I would never get those opportunities. And it used to irritate me, because I'm like, I'm slinging homes like $80,000, $250, $240, $350, $500 here and there, and like 2.4, but I don't get like the good stuff. Like, some other agents that weren't doing as much business would have a $400,000 sale here, a $600,000 buyer here, because you would like hand it to them.
Yeah.
But I also am one of those people that believes when things are handed to you, you don't work as hard.
Yeah. And
I think when you work hard, you learn more, and there's more value in what you've done and accomplished.
100%. So, based on we know, like at least here in Massachusetts, the real estate market, it's really hard. There is a lot of realtors here. So what has been the biggest difference on moving from, the East Coast to the West Coast? I know now you're on your element. You are more comfortable. You are where you always wanted to be in terms of, with the weather and the people and everything. But how did you break into the market there? And how, were you able to succeed there as well? Because you did that here in Massachusetts for a long time, and now you're not completely cutting ties because you're still doing business here in Mass. But how breaking, like just picking up and leaving and breaking into the market in LA, how that's experience been? And
I think that's a great question, because so in Massachusetts, yes, I still do business. I still hold my license. I have a deal that's closing hopefully this month, right now on a sale. And I worked my way into the top 1% within 3.5 years, or between 3 and 3.5 years, right? California is actually far more competitive. There's a running joke that 1 out of 4 people, when you stop and ask them for their license, they're like, oh, which license? My real estate license or my driver's license, right?
I never heard that before.
Yeah, like it's a joke down here. And there's also this thing about, this is LA, right? This is Southern California. So people are fit. You have all these girls and guys that like wanted to be actors or models that are like, oh, look at this beautiful house and my tight little dress and my little boobs out and my, like all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of funny, because one of the things that kind of happened to me moving to Massachusetts, like my style changed because of the weather, right? So I couldn't wear all my cute clothes all the time. I couldn't wear all my shoes because they would get ruined. So initially, the first year here, I was wearing like some of the crap shoes, and a girlfriend of mine was just like, what the hell happened to you? You look like, what did you do? Like, you're not like, what is wrong with you? And I'd look at my closet and be like, that's right. Like, I have all this great shoes. Like, I've slowly started transitioning back into me, so to speak. But the biggest things that I found that were different as far as the market goes is the agents here are far more cutthroat. There's a much bigger pool of agents that lack integrity. Mm-hmm. And, as an agent, we're supposed to have integrity, right? That's part of what you're having to the market. But so let's say I'm in Massachusetts and I have a client and there's a property that's doing an open house and I'm holding an open house. I could say to my client, hey, you know, this here's a couple properties. If you're going to go to the open house, just sign in with my name. And they sign in with my name. That agent would call me and be like, your clients came, blah, 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 blah. And they would talk with me. Yeah. If that happens here in California, that agent will tell my clients, the only way you're going to get this house is if you write the offer with me. No exaggeration, no joke. There are very few agents that will respect that relationship and contact you. Okay? There are some, I'm not saying there's none, but I'm saying the majority will try to take that client. So that was like a shocker to me. And because I was with a team back east, I thought the quickest way from my business to build again would be to plug into a team. And, you know, like I had spent 6 months going back and forth, meeting with different people. I wanted to make sure that there was like solid business, that it wasn't, you know, that it was legit. Because when I plugged into a team back there, the owner of the team with one agent was doing $20 million a year in business. By the end of the first year that I was on the team, we were at, I think, 35 million, then it went to 60, then 80. So like as the team grew, the income grew overall, right? Because we're all doing business and we're all, you know, contributing to that. But the first person I was going to join here was doing $20 million. I like went and signed up with the office they're at and came back out and like they were ghosts. They wouldn't answer my call. They like just straight up disappeared. Turns out they were leaving that office for another brokerage, but they didn't have like the grit to say, hey, I changed my mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I spent all that money registering with an office, signing up with an MLS. I mean, like, I think I spent like $1,600. I was so upset. And then I had to like find again. And so there was 2 pretty big teams out here. Unfortunately, the office managers couldn't seem to make the connection as well. Like they made the connection with one, but I probably, you know, coming from being successful in one state where I started off as a buyer's agent, mostly just working with buyers, and then ended working both with buyers and sellers. So I have experience as a listing agent, and I wanted to focus and get more listings. I didn't want to just be stuck on a team where all I dealt with was the buyers. I wanted to be able to do listings. So when I had the first conversation with a really big team here, who does a lot of business, I didn't know this, but I was talking to the agent's sister, and she was super snobby. She was like, well, what's your history? And I said, well, in Massachusetts, I was in the top 1%. This is how much volume I did. She goes, oh, well, that doesn't count. Like, what have you done here? I'm like, well, I've never sold in California. Oh, yeah, well, we'll call you. And like, never heard from them again, right? Mm-hmm. Then there was another team, and this is kind of a funny story. So there was another team that really was like the model of what I wanted. Most of their listings, I would say 80 to 90% complete new construction, multi-million-dollar homes, you know, 2.5 plus, beautiful, beautiful homes. Their marketing is down. Everything is just like polished, right? From social media to their print stuff, they're just phenomenal, and they seem like a well-oiled machine. So I had heard of them a few different times, and so the office manager where they're at reached out. They never responded. So I came out, found someone else who was like, oh yeah, you know, oh, I have a team. Why don't you come join a team? You know, I have these 2 agents, right? I did my due diligence. So what was your sales volume? Oh, 20, 25 million, blah, blah. Okay, great. You know, that's what it was back east. 2 people. Okay, cool. And he did explain to me one of the guys was only part-time. So I was like, great. Move here, get on board. Nothing that he told me was the way he told me. First of all.
Oh, man.
He provided nothing to his agents. There was no lead generation system. Like the team I was on back east, we had internet leads that came in every month. We did open houses. So you got business from doing an open house, maybe some call-ins from those properties, which I already explained. I never got those, but other people on the team got those, or the internet leads. And then talking to people. Like you and I met through, I'm trying to remember, there was someone else from your office that came to our office, but I reached out to you about insurance because I was looking for an insurance partner for my clients, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, this guy had one full-time agent who would sit, you know, some of his listing open houses from time to time, but he was also one of these guys who was out here because he wanted to be an actor, and he paid for his own leads. And I would be like, wait a second, you're spending money out of your pocket to give 50% to the owner of the team? And then as time went on, the owner of the team was constantly making these comments about, oh yeah, we double dip here. Like you represent the seller and the buyer. And I'm like, so wait, so when these calls come in, aren't you giving them to us? And he'd be like, yeah. But it wasn't until I was on his team for probably a good 6 months and the other guy left. So it was just me and him. And for 6 months, I was holding these open houses on these rundown property that were like basically tear down and builds that were overpriced, right? And you know, the thing that was led to entice me to join the team was, oh, you'll have access to my database. Well, that was a lie. Okay. His database was go find leads. Here's this access to seeing where everybody's ever pulled a permit, go make 1 million calls and find somebody. That's not your database. Your database is your past clients and your leads. Right? So totally lied about that. And so once the other agent left, and mind you, remember I said there was a part-time agent? He was a newscaster who never sold anything, period. But you know, someone that he could say, oh yes, this guy is part of my real estate team. Whatever. And so the thing that kind of was like the last straw for me, he got a call in on this property that I was sitting week after week. And when I say week after week, 3 days a week, I'm sitting this open house that was a complete tear down, had no heat. It's winter. You know, mind you, our winter is different from your winter, but there were days it was like 65 degrees, nothing to sit on, no heat. And he gets a call. And instead of giving me that person, he double ends the deal and comes and brags to me about how he just double ended the deal. And I'm like,
wow. Wait a second. So how did you respond and recover from that? Like,
well, this is what happened. It was funny because I was approaching 6 months to being here, I think like 4 months. And I had saved up 6 months to, you know, because it takes you 6 months to a year to get going. And so I was going to file my taxes and I got freaked out because if I would have paid all of my taxes for the year prior, I'd be dipping into that 6 months and I'd only have like 2 more months. Versus if I didn't pay, I could maybe make that 6 months stretch another 4 months. Like, you know, I'm looking at how do I juggle, right? And so when he said this to me, I was just like, is this guy for real? Oh, I'm done. So meanwhile, like with Keller Williams, at the time I was with Keller Williams, they have a lot of really great training programs. And so I did this one and I met a couple of agents in other offices. And there was a guy who seemed a little eccentric, but had lots of listings and right near where I lived in the Valley. Multi-million-dollar homes, you know, his lowest I think was like 1.8, all in the hills, all these beautiful homes. So I was like, you know, and he had like 5 or 6 listings at a time. So I had a talk with him and was just like, you know, this isn't working out over here. You know, what's going on with your team? So, and I had actually referred an agent to him. So I kind of knew the skinny anyways. So I left the office, the KW office I was with and the team, and went to this other team. And at first I was super excited because, you know, here I'm doing open houses at homes that are not tear downs, but actual homes. Yeah. They're not new construction, but they're homes. And within the first, I want to say like 3 months, I got a buyer and was able to sell them a brand new construction home for $2.3 million, replenished my everything. And then at the same time, because I lived here for so long, I had relationships and was starting to get like some referral business here and there. So in between the time to get to that $2.3 million sale, I had a couple other sales that were smaller, but they were like catching me through. And then, you know, it was good. But again, it was a really challenging market. And just to kind of go back to like how lacking how cutthroat things are. As we approached the year's time, one of my clients wanted to sell their home. I sold them the home. Now they bought the home with me. Now they wanted to sell with me. The one on the team felt like that was supposed to be his listing because he kind of had this thing where he's worked that particular neighborhood for a long time and he feels like all listings belong to him. And so what he had in our team agreement was if I sat one of his open houses and got a buyer and they had a home to sell, that home to sell would be his. So he tried to take my listing and I was like, no, When I sold them the home, they did not have a home to sell. You can't have this in perpetuity. You can't say a year, 2 years, or 5 years from now that that's your listing. They didn't have a home to sell at the time. So that became a huge conflict with us, and we parted ways. So then I am starting over again, like the third time.
Wow. It's the third time in less than a year, huh?
Well, no, at this point it's like 2 years.
2 years? Okay. Okay.
So I ended up leaving Keller Williams altogether and went over to Compass. Compass, as you might know, has really gone after all of the big agents in every market because they wanted to just get market share really quickly. And so like they bought a bunch of agents. Unfortunately, I wasn't bought because, you know, like my volume declined from what it was. If I would have been in Massachusetts when they went into Boston, they would have like bought me in, right?
Yeah.
But I got with a Compass office, and they have some really great technology and tools that's helped me to get more consistent and polish my look. And then because it allowed me to polish like my newsletters and some of those things, I was able to spend time working on other stuff. Like I'm sure you saw, I have a logo now, and my posts and social media is getting a little more polished, a little more clean, a little more like up. I'm leveling up, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about leveling up, leveling up, leveling up. And so this year with Corona, because as real estate agents, and I'm a realtor, which is a step above a real estate agent, which I can explain in a minute. We were declared essential. I've done business this year. I've had listings. I've helped buyers. I've had a lot of leases, which are not my favorites, but I always look at it like they're future buyers. Of course, I want to help people, and especially in this Corona time, it's like a crazy time. You want to help someone get a place to live. So this has been a better year. And my hope and goal is that next year I can start expanding to a team, because I've now, over this year, been able to incorporate internet leads myself to grow my own business. And that's an important component, because when you look at having a team, as the owner of a team, it's not about having people do your bidding. It's not about having people do all the grimy, dirty work you don't want to do. You need to provide something of value to them. And the value is, here's leads. You're not paying for these. You just got to close them. You just got to help these people. Yeah. And yes, of course, because I'm fronting that, you're going to give me a portion, but you're also getting my guidance, my mentorship, my experience, my systems. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So, yeah, that's the plan.
That sounds, I mean, honestly, like, it is impressive to me, our will of being able to fall and pick up the pieces and try again, and fall and pick up the pieces and try again. And I think, you know, it is really impressive that during the past, 2 years, you've been able to do that and continue to have a smiling face and a positive attitude towards everything that's coming at you. But I do agree that we women do face different challenges than men, and I always consider real estate like the wolf's den, because you never know what you're gonna get. You have people like you that want to help, that really is driven and really want to help people, and then there is the other side, I call it the dark side, where it's like it's all a numbers game and we don't care who we hurt. We just need to get the deal done, and because I want to make X. So, and I feel that we have a disadvantage because the opportunity for us came at a much later time than came up for, most men that are dominating the industry right now, but we're cutting it close. We're cutting it close because we work so hard. So based on that, what will you say it's kind of your recipe for empowerment, and what provides you with the tenacity and consistency to continuously succeed without bringing you down, without having to give up?
So I think that comes down to, there is no other option. I don't have someone to fall back on. I don't have family with money. I don't have someone that's just going to take care of me. And I wouldn't even know how to do that. Like I have an agent that I'm friends with who's getting married. Yay. Her soon-to-be husband is an attorney, $1 million a year salary. We always joke that like I'm working so hard to live her life, right? Because, you know, no joke. Like, yes, I have a nice car, but she's like, you know, name brand head to toe, you know, $1,000 shoes. Not that I'm striving to live to wear $1,000 shoes, but I'm just saying like I'm working so hard to afford the life she lives, right? But I think when you have no choice, you can, you know, have bad days and days where you feel down and discouraged and so on, but you have to pick yourself back up because no one's going to do this for you. No one's paying your bills. No one's coming to bail you out. If you don't make it happen, it's not going to happen. And what is our options? I don't want to live on the street. Homelessness has grown in leaps and bounds. And it's a real issue, and it's a heartbreaking issue, and it's an issue with a lot of dynamics and complications. And part of why our homeless population here has grown is because people from other states have shipped their homeless people out here because we have good weather. Just like there in Massachusetts, Boston shipped out the homeless to the suburbs so that they can say they cleaned up Boston. Well, the same thing has happened to Southern California, and it's not just LA, it's Orange County. I mean, there's like encampments along. We have I want to say the LA River Basin, but we have like these aqueducts that allow from when there's rain and excess, it flows out to the ocean. In Orange County, there's tent camps along these aqueducts that go for like a half a mile. Like there's so much homeless out here right now. And I know there's better options and better solutions, but it gets very convoluted and complicated, right? So when you talk about like personal things, like I don't want to be homeless. Like I know someone who has lived homeless for 1.5 years. And part of it is choice. You know, sometimes it's the choices we make. I don't want to say I joke all the time, but I've said to a few people, like, if I was in that situation, I know we're not that great of friends, but I've been begging you to sleep on your floor for 6 months and, you know, we'll give you a portion of whatever I make. But like, some people have the grit to do it. Some don't. But that's always something that you think about. Like, I don't want to be in that position. I've got to do whatever it takes within reason, obviously, to not go there. If it means I have to work harder, if it means I got to work longer, if it means I need to learn some new tools, some new, you know, systems, you got to do what it takes.
So what would you say if you have the power to change something for us women? What would it be?
That old boys club. No, seriously. It is something that...
I'm sorry.
It is so annoying. It is so annoying and incredibly disrespectful that a man can sit there and joke around and, you know, like, you know, pass up a woman who's fully capable for a job, for business, whatever, for a guy who's not as capable because he also has a penis. And it's that male camaraderie, and it's that sexism, and unfortunately it still exists. You know, you know, not to get super raw, but like, let's be real, like, just like racism still exists in America, there's like this hierarchy. It's like the white man, then who would you say is next?
Oh.
If I was going to break it down, I would say the white man, then black Spanish man, and then
any man. I would say any man. Yeah,
white man, black Spanish man, then white Spanish women, and then the black woman, which is effed up. I know so many incredibly capable black women who are intelligent, driven, amazing, but as a woman, we have something that we can bond over because we know what it's like. We know what it's like to make less than a man. We know what it's like for us to go in with the same background for the same position, and they get more. I mean, and I'll just give you an example. The second team I was on in LA, me and this guy came on the team about the same time. I wanted my listings to have my name on them. Owner of the team was like, no, but he let the other guy use his own signs. His own signs that didn't even mention the team. Again, the penis factor.
Yeah, it is. It is incredible because has the older you get, of course, the wiser you get, and when you're talking to people, you know, we women support each other, and we usually don't talk between ourselves about salaries or anything like that. We talk about, you know, how am I able to like afford this for my children, or how I'm helping my family, and kind of that is what gives you a sense of being successful. Now, when you're in a group and you're trying to break into that group of people, all you hear is money signs when you are in a room surrounded by men. And if you are ever discussing any type of salaries, you will definitely see that we come to the bottom of the pile, and probably somebody that is at your same level, same title, makes either doubled or at least 30% more than you do. And it is incredibly frustrating. So tell me, how have you been able to transcend with your goals and focus, having to go through everything that you just went through in the past 2 years alone?
So I think goal setting is important, right? And I think always, again, if your goals aren't big enough to scare you, then you're not striving for the right thing. But when I look at where I've been this year, from my income to last year, it almost tripled.
Yeah.
So that was great. But my goal was twice what I did.
Yeah.
So will my goal next year be what it is this year? No, I'm going to increase that goal. Because, of all the things we talked about, I have these bigger goals. And if you get to half of them, it's a success.
Yeah.
I am more of an A type personality, so I want to accomplish everything. My mother always says I put too much on my plate. Like, I know an agent here who, she started off a lot slower. Like, her first year, she sold 2 homes. Her second year, 4, then 6, then 8. And I think this year she's done 12. But it's also different. She's a model, and she deliberately has put herself in friendships with people that have money. So her friends are attorneys, and so she gets her business from those circles. So she's always having like a $2 million listing or something like that. And this has been her best year. But I want more quicker, and I'm willing to grind it out. But she always laughs at me. She's like, you put so much work on your plate. Like, when I started really doubling down on the YouTube videos, she's like, why are you giving yourself so much work? I'm like, because I have this vision, I have this vision of bringing in a large portion of my business because of the videos. I have this vision of growing this team. I have this vision of helping people. And it's not going to happen if I don't put in the work. Yeah. And I know that, and there's people I know too who are successful, like, oh, well, if you've done something for like 6 months or a year and it's not bringing you anything, then it's time to move on. Yeah. I don't think that way. I don't think that you give up on something because the results aren't quick. Some things take longer for you to see the results. I mean, in the year that I really doubled down into my YouTube channel, I've had a couple people request the giveaways that I do, like the relocation guides. I had someone that we had a meeting about selling her house. Now she's since decided to wait because she's moving out of state, and she's put that on pause. But I had a referral for a $3 million listing, unbeknown to me, and the person who referred me, the property was already listed. So she was just trying to get like a secondary opinion, but it didn't sell. And so that's someone I'm going after next year. Some things take time. Not everything is immediate. And so I think the big thing to keep going is to keep setting those goals. I'm definitely a firm believer in setting those like yearly goals, the 5-year plan, the big ones. I have a vision board, and my vision board stuff is like ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I've got the private jet and all these other things on there. Because I have flew my whole life since I was 9 years old, regular.
But it's great that, no dream is too big. And I think that's the most important, aspect of our conversation is like, no matter how big is your dream, you still have to work hard for it, and it's no dream that it's big enough that you cannot accomplish. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So for women, just to conclude, for women out there that are listening today, what message do you have for them, and how do you feel that it's the best way to transcend? What can you tell them?
I think the first thing is to never give up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how bad your situation is, there's always someone who has it worse. And, you and I were kind of talking before this about a book that I've written in COVID. And I think that book is a pretty big example of going through some of the worst things that we can face as a person, and picking up and moving forward. And it speaks to what I already said. It's like, for some of us, there's literally no choice. We don't have the option to sit and cry and sulk for 6 months because no one's going to pay our bills.
Yeah.
We've got to make it happen.
Right.
And even if you are not in that circumstance, and maybe you're in a relationship or you're married and your husband's supporting you, I think you kind of have to have that attitude.
Yeah.
Because if you know that there's always something to fall back on, I think for some people, you'll never give it your all. You'll never be 100% committed. And I think you have to go after things that you want, like there's no other option but to achieve it.
Yeah. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. Well, Corrie, I really want to thank you for your time today. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. I cannot wait to read that book. So I am going to stay put and wait for that editing to be done, because I know you just give me like a little overview, but I can't wait to read the story. And just keep kicking ass out there. I mean, I cannot wait to see you in person again. I
I
cannot
know.
visit LA. I have to visit you. I have to visit my sister-in-law. And just, keep leading with kindness, because you are a very kind person. And I know that you will get that jet that you certainly want.
Well, and there's a need for it because, just like we talked about earlier, I still do business in Massachusetts. And while my focus is on building the business here in California and growing the team here first, I do want the team back there too. One of my favorite deals was the one in Winchester for 2.4, because there's so many beautiful properties out there. And again, because I love mid-century modern, there's mid-century modern homes in Winchester and Lincoln and Lexington, and so much new construction. And I love beautiful homes. Now the home styles there are very different from here.
Very different.
Right?
Yeah.
But I also was on a mission, and I never released any of these videos, which I feel very badly about. And it's one thing once I get the team going there that I do want to do. But I was interviewing people with mid-century modern homes there, and some people had redone them, and there were some beautiful jobs done. And there's just something very special about that indoor-outdoor feeling, and especially when you update it so it's a little bit more modern taste and less of like wood paneling and some of the darkness. There's just something so warm and comforting about that home.
Yeah.
So I get excited.
I know. And it's just so nice to have that passion and that, that view of, this is everything I want to accomplish, and I am working really hard to get there. And I know you will get there. And I know that, your passion is not going away because it's difficult or because you have encountered a couple of roadblocks. You will get there because that's your determination. And I think for women listening today, I think determination, it's the number one thing, So are you ready for 5 quick hitters so we can close this up?
Go for it.
All right. So transcending is?
Never quitting and constantly growing.
All right. Favorite food?
Jamaican.
Favorite music?
So it's a cross between hip hop and dancehall.
Okay, I will never picture that.
I know most people don't.
Your favorite book?
I would probably have to say the Bible.
I agree with you on that one. And favorite woman influencer?
So this one might seem weird because it's not
Yeah.
so currently, it's more a historic figure, but I would say the first woman to inspire me was Harriet Tubman. I think she had strength, courage, grit, commitment, determination, caring, and was so passionate about, it wasn't just like I escaped this life that I was born into and this
Yeah.
unfairness, but I need to help as many people as possible. And I think there's just I it speaks to me on a lot of levels.
Yeah. I remember Veronica actually read about Harriet Tubman when she was in second grade. And, Veronica's she's all like inspirational and she likes to do speeches and stuff like that. So I remember her going for months about this, and we had to, she found this show on Netflix called Who Was, or something like that. It's about all figures and like historical data and historical people that have, some sort of accomplishments and stuff like that. The Who Was show. The Who Was show. That's the show. And there was an episode about Harriet Tubman, and I think her story is incredible. Just like many many others. She learned about Susan B. Anthony and all these other, like Mother Teresa and all these other figures. So I think there's power on the past, and there is like this deep connection that for women, if you read all these, biographies or all these, stories, not much has changed, and we're still fighting for almost the same things that, they were fighting long time ago. So I think there is power on revisiting what our ancestors, or what our, prior generations have accomplished and done.
I absolutely agree with that. I think there's also something to be learned in that if you look at people that have done big things in their lives, most of them had either very traumatic start
Yeah.
or very traumatic things that happened to them.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing you really realize is they didn't let that stop them or defeat them.
Yeah.
They persevered, they moved on. It
Yeah.
made them stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it takes a certain amount of strength to accomplish certain things.
Yeah.
And we all have a different path in life, and we all have a different card that we're dealt and hand that we're dealt, and a different purpose. But I think that when you allow the hardships and the pain to move forward, and sometimes healing is, I'm going to say something sometimes, but healing is hard. And it's not something that we all do. And some of us can go years without being healed and just still be pushed forward from that pain without, becoming whole. But I think there's just, you really look at some women who have accomplished so much throughout history. And even today, I mean, I look at like a Joyce Myers, right? Who has like this powerful platform where she's helping people and ministering and speaking. Her childhood was worse than mine. Like I was like, whoa, and so I just think that there's something to be said for that, for when it comes to like greatness and accomplishments.
True. Well, I do hope that this is not the last time that we do something together. That's
No.
for sure. And I cannot wait to release, these podcasts. It's going to be great. And I have to go, but I really appreciate your time today. I love you so much, you know that. And I do hope that, great things come your way regardless. And anything and everything that I can do to help you, just let me know. Maybe I'll be calling you for the finance piece. I'm like, you made me think of a couple of things that I have not done.
We can set up a consultation for you, my dear. Let's get you on the right path. Let's fill in those holes.
Yeah, I'll definitely be in touch. But thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you for inviting me. I think you're onto something great. Stay committed. I'm super excited about this.
I'm trying. It's hard, but I'm trying.
You got
All right. Love you, Corrie. Thank you so
it. Love
much.
you too. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening. I hope that you found this episode inspiring and that one way or another you were able to identify with today's story. Remember, like Catherine Stockett said, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. Start believing in yourself and empower those around you, because you never know when suddenly someone can realize they have a choice in what they could believe and do in this world. If you don't follow us yet, please subscribe at our YouTube channel, which is under my name, Monica Duani. You can also follow us on Instagram at TranscendwithM. Or if you just want to chat with me one-on-one, make sure to just connect on LinkedIn and send me a message. It's Monica Duani, and I'm always here for you. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next week.